I found my wife messages to her lover saying, "Sergio, I can't live without you." So I contacted her lover's wife, and together we did the same. I'm a 34-year-old, and Marcella, a 32-year-old, had been together for 8 years, 5 of them married. A stable routine and comfortable silences, which I now know were more about comfort than trust. We did not have children. We had tried a couple of times, and then we left it at "we will see." She worked in logistics, a lot of Excel, a lot of meetings on Teams. I worked in technical support, shifts, on-call duties, and now ridiculous calls. Of the two of us, she was the one who always seemed to be moving up. She would bring home Employee of the Month awards, emails with congratulations, photos from events. In several of those photos, the same guy appeared, Sergio. A salesman's smile, a shirt without a tie, an expensive watch that he himself made sure to show off when he held a microphone. I did not suspect because of a photo, I suspected because of the tone. There is a tone one recognizes when one truly knows their partner, a light thread that stretches too far and vibrates differently. It started with jokes about Sergio. Sergio says he always solves it. Sergio is the only one who understands the boss. One day it was Sergio saved my presentation, and another Sergio dropped me off at home because it was late. That night, she left her phone charging face down. That detail, as small as it was the first brick in the wall. I'm not going to say I'm a saint. I have seen enough to know that anyone can stumble if they stop looking ahead. But I also know that there is no stumble that does not make a noise. The "I'm staying late" started. Mine too, of course, but mine had support. Open tickets, angry bosses over down systems, screenshots at midnight. Hers were, we had to redo reports, and there is no Uber. She never came home hungry. The fridge started to accumulate unopened Tupperware. The exact day everything changed was a Wednesday. I got home earlier than usual because a maintenance task was canceled, and, by a miracle, nobody called. Marcella had told me, "I'm leaving late today. Get yourself some food." I opened the door and the house was dark, but not empty. The noise was minimal, like the whispers of a fan. I dropped my backpack and went straight to the bathroom. In the mirror, I saw something. Her purse on the table, open. I'm not one to go through purses. I did not need to. What I did need was vibrating in the living room. Her cell phone. The screen lit up on its own with a WhatsApp notification. "Sergio, arriving in 10. I miss you." I did not just read that. I read enough for the back of my neck to burn. "I cannot be without you. Last night was incredible. We will have lunch together tomorrow. I will buy you the dessert you like." Photos that, fortunately, were innocent snippets of coffees and parking lots. Unfortunately, the text around them was not. I closed everything and stood still. I did not want a scene. I wanted to understand. I called Marcella. "How are you doing?" "Oh, still at the office," she said instantly, the sound of a keyboard in the background. "This is taking longer, love. Did you have dinner?" "Yes," I lied. "Are you going to be much longer?" "About an hour, max. I will let you know." I hung up. I put my trembling in my pocket. I did something I had never done before. I sat down to read, to breathe, and to plan. Raging and shouting would not help me. I needed clarity. I looked at the phone again, and for the first time, I saw Sergio's full name. I opened LinkedIn. The same guy from the photos appeared, a catalog smile, married, a very discreet ring in an anniversary photo. I clicked on his profile, and right there was the link to his wife, Camila. Freelance community manager, posts about plants, a white dog, a life with warm filters. I sent a connection request to Camila from my profile. Nothing more. I closed everything, put the phone back where it was, left the living room light dim, turned on the news without volume. At the exact time she had promised, Marcella came in. She put on a tired voice. "Hi." She sang as if it were any other day. "What traffic, my God. Did you have dinner?" I asked. "Yes. We grabbed a bite at the office." I did not say anything to her that night, nor the next. On the third night, Camila accepted my LinkedIn request. I wrote her a cordial message. No drama, no arrows. "Hello, Camila. Sorry for the unexpected message. I'm Marcella's husband, Sergio's colleague. Can we please talk? It is about something I think we should look at together. Nothing aggressive, just clarity." She left me on read. 2 hours later, she replied, "What is going on?" I suggested a public place, a coffee shop. Saturday, 11 in the morning. I arrived 15 minutes early. She arrived on time. No makeup, with green circles under her eyes, as if she had not slept well. She had her phone in her hand and a lump in her throat. "I'm Camila," she said, standing firm, like someone who knows a bad blow causes chaos if you do not stand straight. "What do you have to tell me?" I took out my phone, prepared words that were not daggers, but a scalpel. I showed her Sergio's messages to Marcella. The "I miss you" last night. I cannot wait. She did not cry. She clenched her jaw, asked to see the number, and saved it without comment. She opened her WhatsApp, showed me an archived conversation. Sergio Redheart. Scheduled messages, the kind that send themselves. "How are you, love? At 8. Did you have lunch? At 1? I will pick you up at 6. She showed it to me and said, "I also schedule posts for clients." I'm not stupid. He never replies at those times. He says he is in endless meetings. We fell silent. At the next table, 2 teenagers were arguing about video games. The world went on as if our house had not burned down. "Okay," she finally said. "What do you want to do?" "First, not make a mistake that leaves us in a worse position," I replied. "Second, confirm without a doubt. Third, decide." Camila nodded, took out a small piece of paper, and wrote down her number for me. She asked for mine. She proposed something simple. Let us not tell them anything yet. Let us observe. Let us save. If they're doing it during work hours, there is a company policy about unreported relationships. If they are using company resources, there is a trail. And she swallowed. And let us take care of ourselves. No drama. I agreed. That afternoon, I had dinner with Marcella with the serenity of someone returning from a stranger's funeral. The next day, Camila sent me her first screenshot. Sergio canceling a family lunch due to month-end closing. At the same time, Marcella sent me a selfie from the office with a coffee that was not from our coffee maker. a tall cup with the logo of the coffee shop across from Sergio's building. An hour later, a receipt shared by Sergio in a group of colleagues. Enjoy your meal, team. 2 names, Marcella and Sergio. No one else. For a week, Camila and I took inventory. We did not exchange sweet words or give each other pats on the back. We were 2 accountants of ruins. Friday arrived and Camila proposed. I want to call Sergio. I want to invite him to dinner tomorrow. If he says he cannot, we will know who he will be with. And I will do the same with Marcella, I replied. If they both say they have month-end closing, we act. I called Marcella in the afternoon. Dinner tomorrow? I will book at that Italian place you like. Oh, love, we have quarter-end closing tomorrow. I have to stay. I'm sorry. Sunday. Yes. Camila sent me a short audio. I proposed the same thing. He said it was an operational matter and that we will see each other on Sunday. Done. That is it. I'm not going to pretend to be a hero. I slept badly that Friday. I saw myself face to face with Marcella 1,000 times, asking, shouting, letting out a why. But I repeated to myself what we had agreed upon. You do not shoot without aiming. On Saturday, Camila wrote to me. I'm going to drive by Sergio's building. I do not want to spy on him. Just confirm that his car is not at home. If it is empty, I will leave. I, for my part, said I was going to the gym. In reality, I stayed 2 blocks from Marcella's office, sitting in my car, watching people leave, enter, kiss dogs, light cigarettes. At 7:30 I saw her. She came out with him. They did not hug. They looked at each other and smiled with the confidence of someone who has repeated the gesture 100 times. He touched her lower back. She responded with a nod of her head. Let us go. They turned the corner. I did not follow. I took a photo from a distance in case anyone ever asked me. Are you sure? That was enough for me. We met with Camila that same night. We sat at the same coffee shop. She, with the same sad neatness, put her phone down. Sergio shared his location. South Plaza parking. My photo showed a restaurant diagonally across. 2 points that, if you connected them, were the map of a lie. What do we do now? Camila asked, no longer with hardness, without a mask. Whatever leaves us with our heads held high, I said. Expose them. Yes, but not lower ourselves. She laughed without humor. I do not know what not lowering ourselves means when. She stopped. Sorry, I cannot speak nicely today. I did not look for self-help phrases. They are useless. I told her directly. I'm going to propose something that sounds ugly, and maybe it is. They have been disrespecting us for months, and they are protecting each other, not us. You asked me what I want to do. I want them to pay. Legally, cleanly, but I want them to pay. And I also want to get the poison out, because if you do not get the poison out, it rots you from the inside. Camila looked at me for a long time without blinking, like someone deciding whether or not to cross a door. Do you know what my day-to-day has been like? She said very quietly. I have organized anniversaries. I have posted her proud wife photos. I have erased my suspicions so as not to seem crazy. And she squeezed the cardboard cup. He looks me in the eyes and tells me he loves me. That, I love you, made me feel like an idiot. I'm becoming a person I do not like, controlling, persecuting, sad. And I do not want to be that person anymore. No more. Then, let us make a pact, I proposed. 1. We collect evidence. 2. We talk to human resources. 3. We start divorce proceedings with all the calmness of the law. 4. We do not stand still in our pain. And I hesitated. 5. We take care of each other. I'm not talking about replacements. I'm talking about not feeling alone in the middle of this. I do not know if you understand me. She understood me. There were 2 seconds of silence and an almost imperceptible nod. There was no epic music, no grand gestures. There was a small, concrete decision to walk together for a while so we would not fall. The evidence came on its own. A coffee shop audit with shared tickets, romantic emails sent from corporate accounts, what geniuses, synchronized entry and exit times, Ubers to the same address, and, the following Monday, the photo of a team integration meeting in which he and she were sitting closer than professionally appropriate. With each screenshot, Camila and I did not celebrate. We archived. We created a folder in the cloud with 2 levels, evidence and backup. Each file dated, without comments. Meanwhile, at home, the charade continued. Marcella would give me kisses on the forehead, ask me, do not work yourself to death. She would ask if I wanted to go to the movies on Sunday. I would reply with monosyllables that sounded normal because I had rehearsed my voice. I was not planning a soap opera. I was signing a file. On Thursday, Camila wrote to me, are you free today? It was not the question of someone who wants coffee. It was the key that opens the door to what we had promised ourselves, to take care of each other and, in the process, to stop being the only victims in our own house. I was clear with myself. I was not looking for love or a story to tell with pride. I was entering a gray area from which one sometimes returns with wounds and other times with useful scars. I went, without excuses, to see her. We met at her apartment. It was not a place for conquests, but for living. Plants with names, a rug that had a dog's life, a painting with wine stains in the corner. We sat down and talked first, a lot, about how she had met Sergio, about how Marcella and I had grown distant without realizing it, about what it is to be next to someone and feel like you were 2 meters away anyway. I said things I had never said out loud before. It does not hurt me that she felt desire for someone else, I admitted. It hurts me that she decided to lie to me, that she pushed my chair away from her table without saying so. Camila replied, and it hurts me to have been naive for so long, not for trusting, which is fine, but for not seeing the signs right in front of my own face. There were no violins. There was a tired heartbeat that found another. We hugged first because bodies, when they are cold inside, seek warmth. The rest was human and simple, without adornments, without scenes. Nothing explicit, nothing I want to remember for its beauty. I remember it for its sad honesty. It was simply 2 wounded people finding a shore to rest their feet for a while. When we finished, we did not toast or make promises. Camila rested her head on my shoulder and said, I do not want us to think that this fixes us. I do not want to become the same thing that was done to me. No, I replied. This was our agreement in the middle of the shipwreck, and tomorrow we start the hard part. The hard part had a name and a surname. Human Resources. Camila, who was more methodical than I, proposed sending an anonymous report to their company's ethics hotline. If it did not work, we would request a formal meeting with HR using our names and evidence. I called a lawyer friend, not for him to give me speeches, but to tell me what documents I should start gathering. Bank statements, deeds, bills in my name. All the things that make a divorce prosaic. In the early hours of Friday morning, we sent the anonymous report with a summary. Undisclosed romantic relationship between two employees with indirect hierarchical dependence. Use of corporate resources for personal purposes. Corporate vehicle for non-work outings. Emails from the company domain. Work time for meetings. We attached a couple of screenshots that would not compromise our names. The system responded with a ticket, a cold number, but to me, it felt as hot as a matchstick. That same day, at 4:30 in the afternoon, Marcella wrote to me, "Love, I'm staying late today. I'm exhausted." I did not reply immediately. 5 minutes later, another message. "I will bring you your favorite dessert tomorrow, I promise. Sorry for being so absent this week." I replied briefly, "Okay, see you tomorrow." I did not recognize myself in that okay. It was a word without fights, but also without caresses. I read it and told myself that what was lost was no longer up for discussion. Now what mattered to me was the next thing, that the one who chose to break our marriage agreement would face the consequences. If her lover and she had decided to play with fire at the office would return the fire to them. That night, before sleeping, Camila sent me another message. "Thank you for not shouting. Thank you for not turning this into garbage. I will write to you tomorrow with whatever comes up." I replied with something that was neither tender nor harsh. It was, once again, an agreement. We will go step by step, and if we break down along the way, we will support each other for a while, but we are not going to stop. I slept very little. I dreamed of a compressed file that would not open. When I woke up, I had 2 emails. One was from the ethics hotline. "We have received your report. Number so-and-so. An internal investigation will be initiated." The other was from my lawyer. "Make a backup of everything and do not delete anything. Request bank statements for the last 24 months and stay calm." That is the hardest part. I went down to the kitchen. The coffee tasted like metal, as if I had bitten my tongue. I looked at the dining table. The one where we celebrated birthdays, pending payments, daily life. I felt anger, yes, but for the first time in weeks, I did not feel lost. I had a map. I had an unexpected partner on that map. I had a plan. On Sunday at noon, with the email from the ethics hotline already in progress, Camila called me. "Sergio just wrote to me that there is a compliance meeting with HR tomorrow." I did not say anything, obviously. "Marcella has not told me yet." I answered. "I guess she will do it later to rehearse an excuse." She did not fail. At 7 in the evening, Marcella announced, "Tomorrow, a meeting with human talent. They are auditing times and projects. Nothing serious, routine." I wished her a good luck. That actually meant, "I hope you sit in front of a mirror." That night, before closing my eyes, I thought of the word Camila had used on the first day, clarity. That was it. I was not looking for blind revenge. I was looking for clarity with teeth. Consequences. If life had rewarded them for playing dirty, life, at least for once, was going to settle its accounts. And if we had gotten dirty along the way, because Camila and I did what we did, we were not going to romanticize it. It was not love. It was a circle we closed in our own way so we would not keep feeling like leftovers on a plate. The next morning, Marcella dressed impeccably. That job interview neatness. She put on the perfume she only uses when she wants everything to go perfectly. She looked at me at the door. "Wish me luck," she asked with a half smile. "Luck," I said. I watched her leave. I was left with the clock in my hand. At 10:01 I received a message from Camila. "They have entered the room." Sergio looked like, "What is going on?" "I'm waiting outside. I will let you know." I waited. I did not put on music. I did not turn on the TV. I did something I had not done since I was a child. I sat in silence with my hands clasped. At 11:01, Camila sent. "He came out. He has not written to me." Sergio's boss went in after him, looking unhappy. I think they found enough. At 11:16, Marcella wrote me 3 words. "Everything is fine, love." It took me 2 minutes to reply. Okay. I was not going to give them the satisfaction of seeing me go crazy. At 12:05, Camila sent one more. "Human Resources is going to interview me as his wife. They called me." "Okay. For you." "Okay." I repeated. "I'm ready to. If they call." The chessboard was already in motion. We had arranged our pieces with patience. What came next did not depend only on us, but on the clumsy steps they themselves had taken. At that time of day, with the sun in the window and the mailbox burning, I knew the end was not going to be pretty for them. It was not going to be a spectacle for me either. It was going to be like everything we did from the beginning, surgical and without shouting. And if I had any dignity left to protect, it was precisely that, not to become someone I do not recognize. The morning of the Human Resources meeting was like waiting for lab results. You know there is something strange in the blood, and yet you make yourself breakfast so as not to think. At 10:01, Camila wrote to me, "They are in now." I, with cold coffee in hand, stared at the edge of the table as if the answer were there. 11-something. Sergio came out first, a confused face. They told him to wait outside. They are going in again with the manager. 5 minutes later, Marcella sent me, "And everything is fine, love." I read it twice. It sounded like a template. I did not make a scene when she got home. She arrived with her usual composure, her purse slung over the other shoulder, the perfume she uses when she wants everything to seem under control. "How did it go?" I asked. "Routine," she said, pouring herself some water. "It was for compliance. A time audit. Some people overdo it, and they want to control that." The glass trembled ever so slightly. I did not insist. My plan was not to drag a confession out of her by shouting. It was to document a choice. That same afternoon, Camila. They called in 2 from Sergio's team as witnesses. They reviewed emails from the company domain. They found trips with the corporate car after 8 p.m. It is serious. I slept little. The next morning my lawyer called me. I'm repeating what I told you yesterday. Order, not a fight, he said. Get bank statements. Identify expenses that are not for the household, and that can be classified as dissipation. Keep receipts, and, above all, do not threaten. Clean processes are won with paper, not with volume. Understood? One more thing. If she used the work address or work resources for this, there will be professional consequences. That does not guarantee you anything in the civil case, but it gives you ground. And protect your credit. Remove authorized users. Block secondary cards. Today, I hung up and without changing, I went to the bank. I got through the administrative hell in 3 different windows. I removed Marcella as an authorized user on my personal card. I requested a 24-month statement. I activated alerts. It was not revenge, it was raising my shield. At noon, a message from Camila. They have suspended Sergio pending investigation. Surrender of laptop and ID card. I found out from a friend on the 5th floor. 2 hours later, Marcella. I'm coming home later today. Work kept me. I replied with an okay, that weighed like a closed door. The internal investigation lasted a week. There were no theatrical blows, just emails with please attend, people leaving rooms with teary eyes, and 2 lapidary decisions on a Friday at 4 in the afternoon. Termination with just cause for Sergio for violating the policy on unreported relationships and improper use of corporate resources. Termination for Marcella for the same reasons. They reclaimed the equipment, the cards, and cut off their digital access on the spot. I found out first from Camila, who was on duty in her own hell that day. They just escorted Sergio down with security, she told me in a brief call. He is carrying a box with his things. He tried to act dignified, but his pride got stuck. I breathed. I did not celebrate. I took note. Marcella arrived at night with her dignity broken and her voice in automatic mode. They fired me, she said, without preamble. They say I violated some absurd policy. It was unfair. I do not know what they might have told you. Someone probably made something up. Sergio and I were just. Her expression faltered and she recomposed it. We were just working a lot. This is a persecution. I did not answer hastily. I went to the study, took out a folder labeled clear, and put it on the table. Inside were tickets, printed screenshots, a couple of photos from a distance, and a list of repeated trips. No frills. Papers, dates, times. I'm not going to shout at you, I told her. I'm not going to call you anything ugly. I'm going to tell you something simple. I want a divorce. And out of respect for what we were, I would prefer that we start separating things tomorrow. You can stay in the room tonight. Tomorrow, please, find a place to stay for a few days while the lawyer's visits are arranged. I will not make a scene. I will not uphold a lie either. She glanced at the folder with the feigned calmness of someone trying to hide a fire. You and that woman, she asked suddenly, pointing into the air. Are you talking to her? Yes, I replied without faltering. We talked. We confirmed to each other that this was not madness, and that is it. She stood still, her eyes like glass. Then she did what many do when there are no arguments left. She cried as if tears were erasers. I did not move. Not because it did not hurt me, but because if I sat down to comfort her, I would be signing off on the postponement of the inevitable. I waited. It was a mistake, she finally said. I do not know at what point. She stood up, walked around the room. It was a mistake. I love you. I did not want to hurt you. It got out of hand. You were always on shifts, on call, and he was there. She defended herself with the usual list. Loneliness, stress, misunderstood admiration. She was not seeking my forgiveness. She was trying to shift the vanishing point. I did not bite. I'm not going to argue about that, I said, normally. Our story is not reduced to this, nor is it saved despite this. We are going to separate with the greatest elegance possible and with the greatest firmness. My lawyer will be here at 9 tomorrow, if you want yours to come. In the meantime, please, do not make calls here, and if you need anything, tell me and we will coordinate it. But we are not a team anymore. She sat down, exhausted. She nodded with a slight tilt of her head. She went up to the room with a suitcase that I heard her pack in silence. That night, I slept on the sofa. It was not for comfort. It was the boundary that had to be drawn. On Saturday in the dining room. 2 lawyers, 2 cups of coffee, and the 2 of us with tired eyes. My lawyer, precise. First, an inventory of assets and debts. Second, a separation regime. There are no children, which simplifies things. Third, an agreement on temporary housing while it is finalized. Fourth, a confidentiality clause so as not to turn this into a circus. Fifth, and I will say it up front, we will file a claim for dissipation of assets. There are expenses that do not correspond to the household. I'm not judging, I'm describing. That will impact the division. Mrs. Marcella, I suggest you get advice. Her lawyer tried. There is no typified adultery that affects distribution in our state, he said. And if there were, we cannot punish intimacy. The expenses are minor. Motels do not prove. Nobody talked about penalizing. Mine cut him off. I talked about dissipation. Household income used clandestinely for non-family purposes. There are traces in accounts, transfers, purchases. We are not going to humiliate anyone. We are going to ask for compensation. The end. Marcella did not speak. I signed authorizations. She signed others. The lawyers organized a schedule. It was decided that in 2 weeks I would stay in the apartment, and she would look for a small rental. I offered to help with the move, not out of nobility, but to close things in an orderly fashion. She accepted with a gesture. That same day, after the lawyers left, she came down to the living room with a box. I do not want to fight over things, she said. I'm taking my clothes, my books, the painting my sister gave me. I'm leaving the dishes and the sofa. The bed, are you keeping it? Yes. I will buy you another one if you want. No need. Closing up a house is a surgical act. You take things out, you fold, you name, you swallow a memory and put it in a black bag so it does not smell. At 6 her sister came for her. There was no hug. She told me, take care, like you say to a neighbor. I closed the door without ceremony. I stood in front of the empty piece of furniture where there used to be plants. The silence did not break me, it confirmed me. I found out about Sergio from Camila. She called me 2 days later with the voice of someone who has already crossed the river. Termination with just cause, she read. Violation of Articles 4.2 and 7.1 of the Code of Ethics. Improper use of corporate vehicle and institutional email for personal purposes. Concealment of a romantic relationship with a colleague. They are demanding the return of the car, the cell phone, and are applying a 12-month non-compete clause. No severance pay. They blocked his bonus. She searched for the word, in freefall. And how are you doing? I set my conditions. I'm keeping the apartment which is in my name. He is leaving with a suitcase. I'm going to ask for a separation of assets agreement with a retroactive date to when his dissipation began. My lawyer says it is viable with the evidence of expenses. Oh, and before I forget, Sergio wrote to me. He wanted to blame you, your vengeful attitude. I replied with one sentence. What you did made it possible. No, I did. Silence since then. Good, I told her. Good. We saw each other that night. Not to kiss or to make a final toast, but to tell each other about the mechanics of the day, like people on duty. Camila brought out some wine, but we did not open it. We talked about lists, signatures, notaries, moving, the need to block numbers in the middle of the night. We gave each other a hug when we said goodbye. A long one. Nothing more. Sometimes the body asks for a truce without romance. The following week was the week of uncomfortable messages. Mutual friends who do not want to get involved. But what happened? The birthday group from Marcella's office, who for some reason wrote to me with cheer up. 2 acquaintances who advised me to talk it out. We all make mistakes. I did not respond with manifestos. I copied and pasted a sober sentence. We are separating for personal reasons. There will be no details. Thank you for respecting that. It serves as a vaccine. I noticed something curious. When you do not make a scene, the people who thrive on scandal get bored and leave. Those who stay are few and valuable. Among those few was Camila, who now frequented my living room not as a conspirator, but as a logistics ally and, at times, as silent company. We started a silly and useful routine. On Thursdays, we would cook something simple, watch half a movie, and leave it halfway without guilt. Neither a couple nor therapy, a bridge. On moving day, Marcella came back for her things. She arrived with a friend, and with an expression I could not read. It was not guilt, it was not anger, it was that sour mix of someone who understands too late. We looked at each other like you look at a colleague you no longer work with. They carried boxes. I signed for the delivery of a set of keys, as if it were an inventory. When she was about to leave, she stopped me at the door. I cannot ask for forgiveness, she said. It is useless. I do not have the right to ask for it, but I do have the right to ask you for something basic. Tell me. Do not destroy me with your version. Do not turn me into a monster where I'm not 1 inch. I thought. I chose not to give her a lie, but to give her a clean deal. I do not talk about you, I replied. It is not my habit to go around telling my life story. Do not ask me to defend you either. You did this, and I'm busy with something else, putting myself back together. She nodded. She went down. The closing of a door. The echo of a chapter that finally did not ask for extra paragraphs. A month later, my lawyer called me for the conciliation hearing. We arrived on time. Marcella arrived with a new hairstyle and a tired look. There were no knife fights. There were numbers. A compensation in my favor for the dissipation was recognized, very modest, but symbolic. We agreed that I would keep the apartment, assuming the debt. She would keep the car, without debt, and her belongings. Separate accounts, 0 alimony, because we were both capable. We signed. Hands that were once rings were now straight signatures. In parallel, I found out through third parties that Sergio, meanwhile, tried to set up a consultancy with 2 former colleagues. The problem with closed doors is that when there are clauses and reputation at stake, they do not open with speeches. He lost a loan because he could not prove a stable income. He sold a motorcycle to pay rent. He started working on commission selling insurance. There is nothing wrong with selling insurance. What is wrong is pretending you are still a manager when you call to offer policies. Marcella went through a series of failed interviews. Wherever she was interviewed, sooner or later the question of her departure would come up. You can gloss over it once, by the 5th time you run out of makeup. She ended up accepting a temporary position, a 3-month contract, a lower salary than what she had 4 years ago. At the end of the 3rd month, her contract was not renewed due to budget cuts. She went back to her mother's house for a while. There were arguments. She did not call me to tell me about it. I found out because in the city, gossip travels through the pipes. Sergio and Marcella together. Yes, for a while they took refuge in each other like someone who stays to live in an evacuated building. One Sunday, I ran into them in a neighborhood supermarket. They were carrying a basket, not a cart. They were telling each other to be calm, through clenched teeth. I heard them counting bills. They did not see me. I did not greet them. Not out of theatrical contempt, but for hygiene. Meanwhile, I was organizing the new house, which was my old house. I replaced the dining table with a smaller one. I opened windows, filled the fridge with things that can be cooked without a manual. Eggs, tomatoes, bread. I started running around the same old park, at the same time, to train my head not to wonder what if. I changed my shift at work, spoke to my boss, and managed to switch to a less killer schedule. I explained just enough. I received a take your leave whenever you need to. I packed the portraits with Marcella in a box that I did not open. Not out of resentment, for hygiene again. Camila continued with her plan. She managed to get the judge to recognize a more robust adjustment for dissipation than mine. Sergio had the poor judgment to pay for a weekend on the coast with a joint card. She showed the statement, cross-referenced dates with locations, and the judge, who has probably seen humanity in all its versions, marked his verdict with a pen. Compensation. Sergio left the hearing with a manila envelope and the look of someone who believes it is unfair that the world does not applaud him. One random Thursday, Camila brought a plant to my living room. His name is Lino, she said, as if introducing me to a neighbor. If you remember to water him once a week, he lives. If not, he lives too, because he is strong. Like us. I tried to joke. She smiled without enthusiasm, but she smiled. We talked less about them and more about schedules. She got a couple of new accounts as a community manager for a restaurant and a bookstore. I, with my stabilized shifts, resumed a course I had left halfway. No epiphanies, no. I found myself on a mountain. Just normal life. Sometimes that is joy. Their fall was sustained, without the noise of a movie. Sergio, chained to his non-compete clause, started accepting cold calling assignments. Some clients would ask for references, and when they did, they would end the call quickly. Marcella, with her whole written resume, took refuge in jobs that promise growth that never comes. They moved in together into a studio apartment in an area they did not know. They lasted 3 months. Then she went to her mother's for 2 weeks. She came back. They argued. They separated for some time. They got back together again when there was no other choice. I do not know what state the year left them in, but I do know that the word ruin does not always mean not having a penny. Sometimes it is looking at yourself in the mirror and not recognizing the person who burned down a job and 2 families for an office adrenaline rush. One night, Marcella wrote to me after months. She did not call. I would not have answered. I got a text at 9:41. I need a favor. I know I have no right to ask. It is a small loan. I promise to pay you back in 2 fortnights. I read. I thought. I called my lawyer, and then I called myself. I replied at 10:05. I cannot help you with money, not out of selfishness, because we closed that door. If you need information about free lawyers or employment, I will pass it on. Money, no. She replied. I understand. There were no insults, no crying, just the echo of a responsibility that was no longer mine. A little later, I sent her 3 contacts for legal clinics and a job portal. Not for her, for me. To sleep with a clean pillow. The last time I saw Sergio, he was on a bus with a briefcase that was no longer leather. He was looking out the window at nothing. I saw him for 2 stops, no more, no less. I did not feel pleasure. I felt justice and, perhaps, a harsh relief. The pieces fall where they should when you stop forcing them. Camila and I together. No, we did not make our shipwreck an island. Was there affection? Yes, there were hugs that did not ask for names. One night, months later, I sat her down in my living room and we talked frankly. We saved each other from sinking alone, she told me. But we do not owe each other a story. No, I told her. We owe each other an honest friendship. That yes, she repeated and left Lino on the shelf as a witness. Since then, we see each other with the frequency of friends who were in the trenches together, without obligation, with respect, without the need to explain anything. She rebuilt her brand. I put my head in order. Sometimes we send each other memes, sometimes silence. It works. There was no grand moral, there was closure. One Tuesday, the judge signed the divorce decree. I went out into the street, looked at a random sky, and thought about adult things, paying the electricity bill, buying new curtains, calling the plumber. I made a list on my phone. Life went on, as life always does when you think it no longer can. That afternoon, before turning off the light, I allowed myself a small scene. I took a photo out of the box in which I had fewer dark circles. Marcella was laughing, and the world did not yet know about Sergio. I looked at it for 10 seconds. I put it back, closed the box, and stored it in the attic. There are memories you do not throw away or display. You file them. I turned off my phone. I went to bed. I slept. The next day, I went to work on my new schedule. At lunchtime, I went out with 3 colleagues to eat at a cheap local place. We talked about a game, about a raise that is not coming, about a terrible series that we all watch anyway. In the afternoon, a difficult client told me, "Thank you for the first time in months." I walked home. On the corner, a lady was watering some plants. Lino was waiting for me on the shelf, a survivor. I thought, with the key already in my hand, about the title of this. We did the same thing. And yes, we did. They did too. The difference was in the how and the after. They turned it into a chain. Camila and I, into a key. There were no fireworks. There was something better. Order. And if anyone is looking for a movie ending, there is not one here. There is a resolution, which is different. Marcella and Sergio ended up paying every penny, every closed door, every uncomfortable call, every evasive glance they deserved. I ended up at peace, not magazine happy, at peace. And that is enough for me.